Good science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown and a loser?
Where you been?
Drunk. Wendy? Darling? Light of my life.
What's your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death?
Yeah, so fuck up and die.
And it fucking slayed me both times.
Yeah, you're like, hell yeah, dude. He's the fastest man alive.
Anyway, we're gonna talk about some horror movie.
I know. Speaking of being really fast, this is going to be a fast podcast.
It might be. Honestly,
speaking.
We'll see.
Maybe we speak evil in this one. Huh?
I've been stewing on it. So, because I watched it like a week ago, so I was stewing on it. So this is the Cult of Cinema Knowledge podcast. I'm Levi. That's Jordan.
You guys made it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for clicking on this. This will probably get the least amount of views because I feel like nobody watched this movie.
No,
it was on a lot of like lists. I put it on the poll last week. So this last month we were watching the best of 2022 films, and I ended it with like sort of more underseen like horror movies of the year because there's a lot of good horror movies and like the big ones like Nope and like Pearl and X and all that, Barbarian. We didn't put those on there. I put the smaller ones, and this one was on a lot of people's lists, and fuck, it won the poll. So I thought,
and it won by a
pretty good margin. I thought Fresh was gonna win because that was like seemed like the most popular one.
Yeah, and that's like really accessible.
Hulu, yeah. But anyway, so we're talking about, and I feel like I'm gonna fuck this up. I did not do my homework. I did before, but it's Danish. It's the Danish. I know it's like a joint production. It's like
they made it. Yeah, it's kind of a little confusing because it is like, it does go through, it's like Dutch, it's like a Dutch, French, Italian.
Well,
Danish,
we'll get, it's not
Netherlands.
Like, yeah, they're speaking, because there's like multiple, they're speaking English, they're speaking, Dutch, they're speaking Danish or whatever, also. And to us, again, I've barely left Utah, which is in America.
Right.
I'm very not well traveled. Unfortunately, I travel through the art of cinema as best as I can.
And in this movie, I see a windmill, and so I'm like, that's got to be like that's pretty like Dutchland.
There's one more. It's because they go to Holland, which is like the Netherlands.
Right. The Holland is like
and so there's they're in
capital.
the Netherlands, and they come from like Finland or somewhere. Sorry.
Yeah. What's that? What's the flag? They show the flag on the boat on the ferry.
Anyway,
so that's supposed to be definitive
that's
to where
it is.
They're coming from.
I looked it up after I watched it because I wanted to know the geography, and it made sense at the time. But this was a week ago, and my brain cannot process information that long ago. But I remember being like, "Oh, it's only an 8-hour drive. That's fucking awesome!" Like,
yeah, you're right. They have that conversation. That's I don't know. Anyways, give the listener at home.
This is the movie Speak No Evil that came out this last year. So here's the general synopsis. So this couple, this family is vacationing in Spain or no, Italy. They're in Italy. And they're vacationing, and they meet. I need to look up the characters' names. It's like Bjorn and his wife and whatever and their daughter. They're vacationing in Spain. They meet this other family, Patrick and his wife, kind of there, and they kind of like hit it off and become friends. And then they go back home, and they get a postcard in the mail from Bjorn and his family. They get a postcard in the mail from Patrick, and he's like, "Hey, we talked about like maybe coming to visit. Why don't you come visit us?" And they kind of don't. They are hesitant, but Bjorn is taken by, having like this male friend and this like confidence of this guy. I can tell he's taken by. So they go to visit this family, and they go stay there, even though they don't know him very well. They take their like, I mean, she acts like a 5-year-old, but she's like 10.
Sure. Right. I feel like they're disarmed too because it's like it's like a couple that's the same age as them with a kid that's the same age.
They have another kid too, and so
there's a comfortability.
Yeah,
you know,
there's
within
some
the
like
family.
language. They all speak English, but they both speak their separate
Oh.
languages as well from their respective
right.
countries.
Right.
So there's like a lot of weird. If you're like socially anxious, this movie is gonna keep you on edge the whole time because there's like a lot of
Yeah.
weird social tensions going on with these families where it's like the mom keeps being uncomfortable. So many things like there's just weird things in the house, and then they keep provoking her and like all this shit, and so it's just this kind of like all slow burn. The details don't really matter that much except for the kid is super weird and he's missing his tongue. But they're like, oh, he was born that way, and he can't talk very because of it. But they're weird, and they go to leave at one point because they're like, this is fucked up, and this is really uncomfortable, and I hate it here. But they end up going back because fuck you, and they go back and they kind of get sucked into more weird social situations, and I'll let it pass. But it all turns at the climax when Bjorn finds the tongueless kid dead, and he finds like the shed like basically full of like all these other photographs and like luggage from these other couples where they keep
evidence of other.
It's shown
couples.
that they've lured in
tours.
other couples with the kid, and then somehow the couples disappear, and then they take the kid in, and they've done it several times.
I mean,
possibly dozens.
From the photos,
Dozens,
it
yeah.
looks like
Dozens.
If not like the highlight.
So Bjorn quick walks out of the house, takes his family, and he breaks down on the side of the road, and basically his family gets taken by the people they're staying with, and he's like very scared but also not like reacting about it, and then they're like, oh, you guys are weak, and they drive him out to nowhere, and they cut out the little girl's tongue and steal her, and she's the new child, and they take Bjorn and his wife into like the stone quarry and stone her to death. And so the Patrick and his wife now have the daughter with the tongue, and the cycle completes itself. So,
What man? What was,
I should have wrote a synopsis.
What was your first? Well, no, that's that thing, dude. This is one of those films. It's such a slow burn that it literally it eats up its hour and a half like runtime through mood, through tension, through just looks, through oh my god, I almost just said the word subtext, and that's the one thing that makes me so frustrated with this fucking movie is there's no subtext ever. It's all plainly him going, the wife going, I'm uncomfortable, and the husband going, well, honey, they are being nice, and that's it. And it's like it's so explained.
That's the point, and I get it. I think
It's
that's the
like,
thing about this
sure.
movie. So, my initial reaction
Yeah, what was your first?
was
This is your first time you've seen it, right?
Oh, obviously, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
And so I was watching it. I'm like, okay, this is really tense, and these scenes are really uncomfortable, and I think they're well done. And it's like the characters are making kind of dumb decisions, but it's not like in a horror movie where that often it's like just to serve the plot. Like these characters are these super passive type introverted characters that do that, especially Bjorn. And so it's like I let it pass all the way through, and it didn't really start really actively frustrating me till the climax. And then the whole climax pissed me the fuck off. But it's like I get it because that's the point. But after I watched it, I was like, that movie pissed me off, and I had to go vent to my wife about it. But then after I stewed in it a couple days, I liked it a little bit more because I'm like, it did what it set out to do rather effectively. But it's just like, this is one of those movies that its goal is to antagonize the viewer, I feel. Like, it pokes, it's like, I would say, and this is skipping ahead a little bit, but like, if you liked this, watch this. Like, I would say Funny Games, where it's like Funny Games actively is like, it's breaking the fourth wall though, and it's like kind of having a lot more fun with it, but like in a really twisted kind of way, but it takes away the power, and it's like, as the audience, it's being like, it's really frustrating, and I feel like this movie sets out to frustrate you, and it succeeds at that, but it's hard to recommend because of that. But I feel like, other than like, there are points where it's like, come on, really? That I feel like it could have been better.
Yeah, really. I feel like this suffers from like first draft syndrome. This was definitely a movie that I think he set out and like I know that the director could conceptualize the vibe. They knew exactly how they wanted it to look, sound, feel. They wanted the color. They literally like it's all basically
it was shot pretty
form.
good.
It's all
The
form
pacing,
over function because it
yeah.
looks great. The acting, the blocking, everything about it. Technically, this movie's beautiful. I think it looks fantastic, and I personally, I think you might have mentioned in some of the comments or just the score. You're kind of frustrated with the score a little bit. I thought it punctuated the movie perfectly. I was hooked the second it opens up. I love how it's like the foreground that was in my notes. I wrote really, really beautiful textures in each shot. Like there's a lot of good foreground in every shot. Like that just opening shot where it's like them driving up, in like through the woods and stuff. And it's like the music and everything. I was hooked immediately. And then that was it. It had some vanity. And then I was frustrated with every character's decision because no matter, I mean, I understand it's supposed to be like the moral of the story is like, being super polite, you'll get taken advantage of, or at least, in this world, those were the characters we had. How it's like the antagonists were like, I'm going to push your boundaries of politeness so far that it'll be your demise, and that
Right.
like it'll
And
like, basically because he's like we didn't do this, you let us do this,
Yeah,
and thus
that's the whole
your
thing.
fault, and that's fine, but that's like just because that's the answer doesn't make it a very good answer.
Yeah,
and I don't know.
I think it really worked until the reveal near the end because the reveal felt so half baked, but then
that's
after
what
it becomes like fight or flight from physical violence. Like, it's hard to then put yourself, because, you can put yourself in a situation where it's like, you're in denial about the red flags. I could see that.
Right.
Like, obviously, I think a lot of it's cultural, too. Like, I feel like here in America, we're too hot-headed. And so I feel like we're quicker on. It's like, from what I've read online, especially, like, some people are like, I know a lot of people like that. But, like,
I can
once it
buy
gets to
that.
the end, and it's like, I'm a dad, and you don't even have to be a dad to be like, the second they start fucking taking your daughter away and cutting her tongue out and then like beating you and then like they're like undress and they don't even have a weapon, like there's gonna be some survival instinct, and I know that's a like creative choice from the filmmakers to be like to really ram home their point in a non-subtle way, but it's just like that aside, the nuts and bolts just don't work. Like, what's the plan? That's what frustrates me. It's like,
it's like fight or flight, and it's like they weren't even fighting either.
They weren't doing anything.
They were just like they were submissive, which I'm like, at this point, when you're like in this much danger, you would either like collapse or you would run or you would sob or you would react. There would be a reaction.
We watched Martyrs a while back, and it's like spends a lot of time breaking someone down to where they become submissive.
Right.
And because obviously that makes sense, and it's like these characters are just already like that. And that's, again, it's like, that's not even my biggest qualm. That's just what's frustrating.
Yeah, right. I guess, and that was my biggest takeaway, because that's what sucks. Is like, I think that's what it is I liked everything about it except the character. So it's like, I'm like, I just didn't really like the movie.
That's the thing. I'm like, I couldn't rate
it
it correctly because I'm like, you know what? This movie did everything it set out to do. It did it pretty well. Like, I feel like the motivations are too ambiguous to make sense.
I
villains.
hated that. Yeah,
like,
there's no subtext. You have no idea why'd they stone them. What's the symbolism behind them stoning them? I wish that you got more.
The fact that they've done it dozens of times.
Yeah,
it's like
the antagonists are just, they're nothing people.
Even
they're just they're not even like sadistic or anything. They're just like this is what we, just because you let us do it. This is what we like to do.
I was hoping it was gonna cop out and either be like, because they're keeping these kids, but I'm like, if they would have just had even like a throwaway line of like some sort of hint to human trafficking or like even a cult, make it a cult.
That is so right there. Ding 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 ding, dude. That was the original.
Is that what it was supposed to be?
Was that it was going to be like a sect that everyone in this like rural area, they all would come together and trade kids and like kill they would all have their own couple, and then they would execute their own couples together. And that it was going to be like the climax was going to be a lot larger and a lot more like,
that makes sense.
I mean, a lot more,
it's
a
like,
lot grittier and stuff, but then just time restraints, budget restraints, everything got in the way. And he slimmed it down to make it just the one couple. And
But that's
I
the thing.
understand that,
They
but
have
like,
a conspirator. Like they have that other
they
guy.
do. They have the fucking babysitter.
So what's his
weirdo?
like, and I know that's like
Yeah.
it's ambiguous, but it's to the point of like it's not a plot hole, but it's bordering around it because it's
right.
like they can't with the information you've given us. There's no way they're getting away with it.
Well,
if there was a
like
huge network, then sure, but like
Well,
they're just
and the
doing
fact
it on
they
their
didn't-
own. They don't have a job.
They
Like,
didn't even get, and they didn't even get like. I mean, well, no, they don't have a job, but they definitely
They're just robbing them.
They rob the people they take. So I mean, I like that. I like that. That's kind of answered essentially. But no, dude, the kids, the kids are like a big part of it too. I can't imagine. I just can't imagine they have done this to, let's just say like 15 families. They've done this to 15 families. That's 30 people on top of like, the kids, and the kids are a little more malleable. Like they can be shocked. They're being violently attacked, and they're kids. So it's like fucking, they're getting their shit fucked up.
Right.
But like the adult, you've got like 30 adults that have all 30 have just submit, like just like, I mean,
Right.
Clearly maybe they never hinted at any kind of history, and it just bothered me so much.
I
I'm
agree.
like, a good movie has like roots. It's like you need.
Well, if it would have been like they did this one other time,
Yeah.
fine. If it was a cult, fine. If it was like
Yeah.
human trafficking or something, fine. But they didn't do any of that, and so you're just like at the end you're just like, what the fuck? And then on top of the frustration you're already feeling from like, just do something, like just do anything and defend yourself, like, and they don't. Like, again, that's fine. I'm not complaining that is the point, because that is the point. But
That's the
like,
thing, yeah. It
you're
could end the
already
same way.
pissed.
I
You're
just
pissed
need-
for
I
two
need-
reasons,
yeah.
and then so I left the movie pissed as fuck.
Right.
But
And not
still
in a
it
good
out.
way. Not like,
No, not
yeah.
like,
I mean,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And I think
we're heated up. We're fired up.
maybe
over here.
maybe I need a few. I watched this on yesterday, right? Monday. Yeah, I watched it on Monday, and it's like I haven't had enough time, I guess, to be away from it to like see what sinks in, what I'll like really take away and remember. I have a strong feeling I won't remember pretty much anything about this movie. There are like two scenes, jumping ahead a little bit, but my favorite scene and probably the greatest, I mean, it's the most interesting, and it is the most quote unquote horrific scene, I guess, the tongue cutting, but it's like when the little kid comes out and he follows him out of the yard,
He shows him his tongue stump?
kind of a lane, and he just opens his mouth, and it's like, oh, and it's like got the fucking the reflection, and it's like, and that like, it's it's cool because it's a fun
That's a
take
good
on what
dread
America-
building moment.
right? Yeah,
where
and
you're
America
like,
does a lot
ooh,
of
what's
those,
the
like,
mystery?
open-
Something's
like,
obviously
those-
off here.
the deep mouth, that like that unhuman, like unhinged mouth.
Yeah.
That vision, and you kind of get that in like the reflection of the mirror or the window, and it's like it's cool, and I like that, like I like finding out later that it's like they've been on the property, and he could have easily been in that shed at any time. They walked to the property, and the family, the like couple, were really like, they're really like nonchalant about everything, and they totally let people go around. They don't try to keep you contained to the home, and so it's like,
Right, yeah.
it's that like that is interesting. That's what sucks, is like, I guess it's just like this had so much potential, and
Well,
I just feel
think
like
it did do things. So let's get
Yeah.
a little bit more of the shitting of out of the way, and then I want to do the things it did right. But going back to the score, in the second half, the score really worked, but in the first half, I fucking hated it because it was trying so hard to be like, there's something wrong here, Bwah! And I'm like, just let me feel that there's something wrong here. But it's just like so in my face, because it's like I'm obviously, like, honestly, I'm made uncomfortable and made uneasy by these situations, because they're like always. I thought the acting of the antagonist, Patrick, whoever played him, was really good, because he was like charming and like really kind of like sincere, but then like he would have these like biting comments and biting moments that always seemed like sort of sinister and like sort of like extra antagonistic, especially the part when they're like riding in the drunk back from the bar.
Oh sure, when he's fully kind of shows his true self.
Yeah, and it's like
that-
the more
I
and
like-
more
I like
that
I like the
reveals.
flip. Yeah.
And he keeps feeding her meat, even though she's like a vegetarian. And
Well, that's I like that. That's the
good stuff.
like,
but I'm like,
that's the good stuff.
quit trying
dude,
to
where it's
tell
like-
me that it's to be uneasy. I already am uneasy, but like
know.
you're shoving it down my throat. But then like once it starts getting real gnarly, and like real, like there's like the red flags are getting, because the pacing was pretty good. Like it gets progressively like you know, it's small stuff, and then it becomes bigger and bigger stuff, and then it just becomes huge stuff, and then it becomes over the line stuff. You know what I mean? And it just keeps going past the line to where it's just like you're like, come on, look the red flags. There's so many red flags. But
Yeah.
at that point, it's fine the music and everything. But I don't know. Like I honestly really was enjoying the movie until the ending, and I still liked it, but it was like it's just like got me worked up.
Yeah.
Just got me, but that was the plan. Like they're like, oh well, we want you to feel something, and I'm like, I know, but I'm like, I don't want to ever watch your movie again.
I guess that's what it is. It's just like it is.
You
like,
succeeded, but it's
other people have commented this, and everyone everyone's like, I don't recommend it. It was fine, but I don't recommend this movie, and that's not really what you want out of your movie.
No, but that's the thing. It's like if I didn't really brush up too much on like the filmmakers and stuff, but it's just like I liked what they did enough, and I thought it was done really competently for the most part, you know. And it's like I get that it was like kind of like a lower budget and stuff. I would 100% if I saw another movie, like a movie coming out, and it's like from the makers of Speak No Evil. I'd be like, oh, cool. Like I'm down to watch that.
Well, there's
I want to
another
see what they're working on.
So I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna dig deep because I can say Christian. That's the director's first name, and then it's Trafdrup.
That's it.
Tafdrup. So Tafdrup, whatever.
That's a perfect pronunciation to anyone who's listening from that region of the world.
Yeah, we don't even know. You're like wherever it is, you're
the
kind of
Scandinavian type region.
Yeah, right, exactly. You've got a lot of your names have the O with the line through it, so that's the Bjorn.
We went to public school here in America. So.
Yeah. But that director, he has another film that is called Parents, and it came out in 2016. And the I saw the trailer for it, and the quick synopsis is like. These what is it, empty nesters, they get to their old home, and they like make it look like before they had kids. They like build their house to make it look like before they had kids, and then they start like de-aging, and they start getting younger. And it looks crazy, and I'm like, this looks awesome. And so I'm definitely like, I'm gonna watch. That's the thing, his mood totally hooked me, and that's why I say it's first draft syndrome. Like he made this and was just like, this is going to be the best draft I've got, but I'm going to shoot the shit out of it. And he really did that. I literally like this is one of my favorite looking movies. I just never want to watch it again.
And that's the thing too. It's like the cinematography and everything was pretty simple, but effective. You know what I mean? It was blocked well. And for
like, There Will Be Blood is one of your favorite movies ever, and that has some of the most simple cinematography ever. It's planes and then just tracking shots, like it's Steadicam. It's like super simple shit, but it's just beautiful composition.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm like, I feel bad dumping on this movie because I don't think it's a bad movie. I don't. Right. I think it's actually pretty solid and pretty good at being unnerving, and I get why a lot of people did like it and it was on a lot of people's lists. And after simmering down a little bit and like looking at it more objectively and like being like, that's the emotion they wanted me to feel. And it's just like, I wish that necessarily wasn't the case, but I totally get it. And then looking at it from more of like an objective point of view of the movie, I'm like, okay, no, it was actually pretty good. Other than like that, I feel like the kind of like not plot twist, but the reveal of like the secret, because there's like hints of it all along, like something's up with that kid. Something. I've seen enough movies to know something's up with that kid.
Right, but the frustrating thing is like, I'm like, don't let it just be this. That from the beginning, I went, oh, this random family invited you to their home. They're bad. They're evil. So I'm kind of just like, I wish that there was something else. I don't know, man. It's fine.
I know.
I thought it'd be cool if their kid was older. If like the kid was like they, and they had to like, before the kid could get strong enough to attack them or something. I don't know. To like just something else. I wish there was just a better dynamic, because it's like they just, I don't know. It's just so.
Yeah, I wish the reveal was better because like there were so many moments I was just like, oh my god, absolutely not. Like that is so uncomfortable and like uneasy.
Right. And that's
like
good. Like that's good filmmaking, but it's like it just goes to nothing.
that's what's
my
that's
problem.
equally
It's just
frustrating because you're
it's so hollow.
that's why it culminates in all that because it's like
Yeah.
that's why I had to step back and look after the fact where I'm like, okay, well, am I letting my emotions get away with me? Because it's like the ending really pissed me off because in the moment I'm like, what? And then I'm like, do anything. And they're just like, the one guy like grabs at him once and he gets punched in the stomach. And he's like, never mind. And
Well,
the mom, who has been like kind of the more formative figure to be like, want to step up and do something and like shouting back at the other family, like, don't talk to my daughter like that. Like I was expecting, like, you can't just cut it, like, I don't know, like nature, you can't take a woman's child, cut their tongue out, and then take them away from them without that much little resistance. Like I feel like
without
that
hurting
pissed me
them.
off.
Yeah, that's what I needed. I needed more like either separation or them really hurting the mom, like or holding the mom down.
I mean, I think that's all it would have taken because it wouldn't have taken much, or even just like a bigger, like, you know. And I know, again, I know that's the point, but I'm frustrated because I'm like, even if he had a gun or something, I would be able to empathize more. But it's like
the suspension of disbelief, right?
yeah, it's hard to break because I'm not like, you know, I'm a dad and I know I would never let that happen, which is true. But also it's like, I think most people, the vast majority of people, there would be something there. And I know that's...
Well, they would break down. That's my problem. That's the thing too. It's like you would have like heightened emotion or you would have like no emotion. You would like either pass out or you would like avoid.
Well, that's what I was
like,
hoping
you
to
wouldn't wanna
see.
it.
I was
It's
hoping
like,
to see Bjorn being like kind of a total bitch about it and a coward, which is in line with his character. He's super...
Yes.
Like he's enamored by Patrick because he's like this like outgoing, charismatic guy that does what he wants when he wants, and he like kind of envies that, and he's like looks up to him almost, and so it's easy to see why he was ensnared by him. But I was hoping that I should really just pull up her name, but the wife, I was hoping she would be more like. I was hoping that like because she was a little bit more combative, a little bit more. You know.
Luis is the wife.
Oh yeah, Luis. Correct, Luisa.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking the whole time that she was going to be at least a little bit more, and I think that would have helped me be able to process the ending better. But the fact that she was the first one to be like, oh, they took my daughter and I'm in shock, and he's like, take your clothes off, and she does it first, and I'm like, oh man, like I was hoping like something for her, and it didn't need, that's the thing, it's like so many small tweaks could have really saved this. Like we were saying, like just a small edit in the writing here or there. There's so many points that you could have just like strengthened it, and I think that's what you're. I get that with the first draft thing that you're saying, but man, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like I'm like, if you look at it, there are certain things that I really enjoyed by the like. It's like almost like the most interesting characters were the antagonists because they like Patrick, like the things that Patrick would like try to get away with, like the little things that he would do, just to see. Because I almost feel like it's like they've probably done this with more people, but they haven't killed everybody. They've just taken people in and been like, oh, this person seems more aggressive, a little smarter, maybe, you know, and they probably just been like, this is a great weekend.
And then just lets it go, maybe.
Yeah, because it's like the bar, taking them to the bar. It's like the bartender scene. You know, they clearly are regulars there, and it's like that scene. On top of being just funny as fuck, when they go and they dance and they're grinding, and then it's like these Puritan, you know, assholes are like, oh god, this is gross. And then like when they go to leave, and he's like, I'll get the tip, and then he gets his card out, and he's like, oh, is it on me?
He's like, oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks. He's just like that power dynamic is great. I really like that.
That's another point in the movie where I'm like, how do they get away with this? Like, people know they're there, and he literally used his credit card.
No. Don't even get me started on the fact that like this one individual family, okay, they've had one accomplice, but they've killed, you know, 30 people, 30 families that exist with. That's like 30 families. That equals like like 5,000 people that know these people have been
Least.
murdered. Like, you know what I mean? It's like that, and that compounds so much with extended family and stuff like that. Like I mean, sure, I don't know. There are people out there that sure could have killed 30 people and never been caught. Highly doubt it, but they could exist, especially not in this day and age. I don't know, you know. So
Well,
it's
it's like they
eh.
obviously have decent jobs and they're like going on vacation and
Right.
they literally have
right.
there's
They
a
were with
specific
their
scene
friends
with their
before
friends.
they
They're like,
fucking left.
yeah,
Who said, "Oh, you're leaving. You're gonna go leave there in 2 weeks." They're gonna go. Well, we haven't heard from our friends in a fuck time. Let's, where
and,
are they?
and am I supposed to believe that's the first time that's ever happened? Like,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
That's what these are the things that like
That's-
that just made the movie so frustrating.
yeah.
I don't know. I guess I'm frustrated because it had the potential. It's
It
like
did. Well,
if it was just a
I-
bad movie.
yeah,
that
I think the
didn't have anything
first
going for
the
it,
first like 80% I thought was really good.
yeah.
Like I thought all the scenes were really tense, and I was just wait because it kept building and building and building and building towards the climax, and then the climax was just so, yeah, like didn't make any sense and
I mean, it
was
felt kinda
frustrating
rushed.
in its own
Yeah,
way.
everything about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that's what kind of I think leaves the impression on everyone.
Right.
I definitely feel like it's worth watching. You, the listener, if you haven't seen
Yeah.
it, I do think it's worth watching if like. That's something you will.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
It is.
Just-
It
I
is.
mean, I think it's worth watching.
It's hard to
so that
recommend,
You
though.
can be frustrated with how it ended, but then but have your own. Because I think about it more where like, oh man, there's so many little tweaks that would have made this so much stronger,
Right.
and that's kind of nice to have. It's like nice to know that exists, but yeah.
Well,
It's
we're
just, I don't know. It's
well. That's the whole thing. It's like frustrated is obviously the key word here, and it's like I think that's what makes it so hard is because it's like they want you to feel frustration by the way they wrote it and with the characters, but then you're left feeling frustration even after the fact, based on like kind of the spotty writing near the end. And I think that's and that's what makes those flaws like worse is because you already have those negative connotations attached to it.
you're right. Yeah.
Because that's what after I cooled down because it's like I did realize it, but that wasn't the main reason I was mad. I was mad about like the reactions of characters, and I feel like they want people screaming at their screen, being like, "What the fuck? Do something!" Like, "No, fight back, get him! Now's your chance," or whatever. Don't do that. Because there's the one part, like the climax was the real turning point, but the one part for me where I literally said out loud to the screen, I said, "Absolutely fucking not," is when they're gonna go to the bar and then the random babysitter shows up, which turns out later to be the accomplice. It's like
Right.
I would never in a million years leave my kid with some just random guy that I'm already in a situation that's like I don't really know these people.
Well, no,
Be
and
like, oh no, they're not.
And like they thought they were gonna bring their kids, and so it's just like I don't know. There's a lot of like, I mean, it's a lot to be said that like you clearly. I think that's what's kind of nice about the movie, and that's like those are the subtleties that I liked, where it's like they are new, so it is that like politeness when you're meeting somebody new and you're like in their home and they
And
invited
who's a
you.
babysitter anyway?
Like-
You know what I mean? At the end of the
but-
day, most babysitters are strangers, so it's like fuck. One
Right,
babysitter's as
exactly,
good as the
but-
next.
But no, but that I'm getting to the point that like miscommunication is a big part of this like tension also. That's what this movie does well. If I wanted to give this a 5 out of 5 stars, it would be building awkward tension perfectly. Like when she's just like, "Oh, the daughter's not coming," and then the babysitter shows up, and it's like in that moment. I mean, even you and myself, and like I'm sure a lot of people out there listening, you'd be in this awkward position where you don't want to be like, "I'm going to cancel all the plans to not have my kid looked out after somebody who you theoretically knows." It's like, and if they do a great job with like him coming in and disarming the situation by being like doing magic tricks, and being, like, really, really like cute and accessible.
Like
and,
obviously, like towards
being like
kids, and the other kid is like fine
and
with
like,
it.
And he comes recommended and watches their kid all the time. So you have to be like, you almost have to kind of just be like, well, I'm gonna put that. It's like that's a red flag, but I'll put it on the back burner. I'll kind of like, I'll let it slide because it's like we're gonna go out with them, so it's not like they're here. And I don't know if anything like awkward happens. But then there's like, dude, when they ignore the daughter to have sex, that is awkward because I don't even understand why they would do that. It's like they seem like they have a strong enough relationship for them to be like, okay, let's like let the daughter in and be, it's like she's in a weird spot. But then when they find her in their bed, I would be like, that was inappropriate. I don't like this, so I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna,
Yeah.
or I'm gonna be.
But they're like they're
"All right, let's
leaving in
go."
the middle of the night, avoid confrontation. Like that's
Yeah.
fine. I get that
And
because
that
that's
shows
the
their
kind of people they
characters,
are. Yeah.
sure. That's supposed to be who they are, but then it just like it happens so often, and like the fact that they can just like immediately flip back, it's kind of dumb. I don't know.
Well, it seemed kind of. That's the whole thing. Is it seemed kind of mean spirited. You know what I mean? Because it's like there's so many times it's like they could have just gone away, and like literally they drive away, and then the little girl's like, "My dolly," and they go back, and the doom music, like the music is so heavy when he's like flipping a Yui, and you're like, "Oh my god, yeah, I get it." They're gonna go. They're
right.
going back to their demise.
Well, see, the thing is, I liked the music because at least it's like
it's
at
fine.
least with the music, you were like, oh, okay, so something thematically is going to happen now. Like this is something narratively is going to happen. It was all in the music cues. It wasn't in the
Well,
it wasn't in like the writing or the actors. It's like, all like
Exactly, and that's fine. Even though if that scene specifically, I think was a little heavy-handed, where it's like, okay, yeah, they're going back for the doll, and then oh wait, she has the doll already. Like they didn't have to do that. That's just being mean.
No.
Like
No,
it's just
right.
being like, okay, but
and it's like it's not even being I don't know, yeah. It would and it's not even being like consistent with the story. Like because originally he goes back and he finds the doll because she left it. It's like if she left it in the house, then I would be more satisfied, I feel like. I don't know. And that's maybe that's the whole point. Is to like to frustrate the viewer.
That's what I'm saying.
You
I feel
know,
like it
you're
actually sets out to antagonize the viewer a little bit because
Right.
it's pretty mean spirited, and like I don't know, just things like that. I think some of the stuff would have worked better with the daughter. It was obviously written for a younger role, and cast that girl. I mean, she's probably pretty young, but she just seems too big for the dialogue. I mean, I don't know. Like, I was literally like, my comment was almost going to be like, that girl is way too old to be that attached to that Steph Bunny. Like,
Yeah, right.
she's like
I don't-
15.
yeah.
Just kidding. She's not. She's like 10. But
Keep going up. I know,
but
yeah,
she was acting like a 5-year-old or something. But I mean, it's whatever.
Yeah. Well,
It's,
and then
kids are, like
Yeah, I mean,
everyone's different. That's the thing. It's like I can buy into all these characters, and I understand. I'm not the kind of person that's like, oh, that's so unrealistic because I would never do that. Like, you know what I mean? It's like I get it. These are the characters, and they do stick to what the characters are for the most part, and so it's consistent. It's just doesn't make it any less frustrating. But
see, I guess this is the case where a movie ruined it in the last 5 minutes, where some movies can do the inverse and like totally save a movie in the last 5 minutes.
yeah,
You're
it just
like,
did
"Oh,
not
fuck
stick the landing at
But it's
all.
just- yeah. No.
And it's like it's like even the climax was supposed to be so like, yeah, the line, obviously that's super haunting, like seams it up. He's like, why are you doing this? And he's like, because you let us, you know what I mean?
Because you let us.
Which-
That's it. It's like because we can, and I'm like, okay, well, I can
That's
just
great.
never watch this movie again.
If
I can
they-
never recommend your movie.
If they didn't do it to like 30 other people, like we said, if this was the first time
Yeah.
or the second time even, and they're just like serial killers, sure. Like, sure, but I don't know. But
Yeah, like I can't buy into any of it. I can't buy into like that many children, that many deaths.
I know.
Like
it's hard. I know it's ambiguous, and so it's like, who knows? Maybe there's an explanation, but it's hard to find one that works. But one thing I wanted to touch on a little bit that I did really like, that I feel like, in addition to like the uncomfortableness and being polite, that I feel like not a lot of movies really touch on, is like this sense of denial. Like, I've definitely been in situations where I'm like high or drunk or something and been like, is this dangerous? Or am I just overreacting? Am I just thinking? And then like, this won't happen to me. It's probably nothing. But then, but then obviously in this movie, it's like by the time you realize it actually is something dangerous, it's too late. And I kind of like that idea of like, not even just like being polite and being like, oh, I don't want to like be confrontational, but like being like, am I reading into this too much?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like, I want to see that in more movies where it's just like, so is he like, is it just me, or it's probably nothing, so I'm going to just like let it go? Because I do that sometimes in my life, where I'm like, I'm probably reading into it, but it's just like, I feel like another movie that does kind of that until it really does flip a turn is Green Room. There's so many signs in Green Room that there's danger there. But they're like, oh, that can't happen to us. Like, that doesn't happen to people. Like, and then obviously Green Room's amazing. But obviously
Green
not
Room's so good,
not to spoil it.
But I think in Green Room, it's like
there's that turning point.
It is an environment though too that they're like, oh, we are not. This isn't that adjacent to our normal environment.
Right, like it's
And so this is like completely fucking out of their realm.
Yeah.
And it's just like them being completely polite. And it's almost just like it's too unbelievable. Even though, we have polite society, I just feel like there comes a point where it's like, even when like they like, I guess it goes to show that the like Patrick and Karen, like their characters, they're really, really manipulative, and they're really good at like gaslighting and just kind of just like playing the victim themselves whenever
that's
they
really
like,
fun.
whenever
Like,
they lash out.
This did
yeah,
that.
and that's
This movie did
done.
this
That's
really
acted
well.
really well,
Yeah.
dude. Yes, yeah.
I want to see more of that though, and like kind of
Right.
thrillers. It's like the like gaslighting and the like, is it? Because it's like it's
Well, dude,
psychological
you-
thriller vibes that you don't really get anymore. But
Yeah,
I'm just
you
like,
said it-
is
you
there
said it.
something
It's-
menacing going on here or not? Necessarily.
Right. Yeah, it's so like it's foreboding, but in such a human way.
Well, they hide
I-
just enough from the audience all along, and that's why I'm saying the pacing is really good because it's constantly escalating the entire time. It's constantly escalating the strangeness and how far they can push it, and like the shit they're saying, and he basically is like beating the kid in front of him. You know what I mean? And it's just
know,
like
well,
that
and
keeps getting worse.
But yeah, it keeps getting worse, and I do, as we're talking about it now, I enjoy that more, where you can see how uncomfortable the main characters are getting, but like they just like they want to be polite, and like and because like they do that, like they do like the typical, I mean they play like the perfect abuser, like they're really violent outbursts, and then they go, well, we're different, and we love,
And that's
we
the
love
whole
our
thing
kids,
too.
and
It's
we-
just like
you know,
this
you
is
would-
just
you-
our
you would-
this is our
you would
family, our
prosecute
culture.
us, like you would, exactly, yeah, you
Well,
would like
that's the thing. It's
yeah.
like it's like we won't get too crazy into it, but it's just like it's like if I saw someone spank the shit out of their kid in front of me, it's like it depends on how far would they have to go for me to intervene to be like,
Sure.
don't tell me how to raise my kids. You know what I mean? At some point, obviously if they start fucking beating them around the room or something, that's different.
Yeah,
but
yeah. And that's well, and I think that like,
but it's hard.
having it,
That's what's good. Is
they
like
just-
they say we're different. This is how we do
But
it. This is our family.
but it frustrates me that like even though they'll have these feelings, they're like bubbling on the surface, like Bjorn and Luis, like the main characters, like they'll have their things and then they'll have little outbursts, but it's like certain scenarios where I'm like, you can either de-escalate or you can just totally be like, we're gonna remove ourselves from this. Even playing that kind of shitty person where you just like remove yourself from it and you're like,
yeah.
it's we don't want to be in the same room.
and
We're part of it.
that's-
They never do that. They
That's
just stay there, and
Luis's
it's
character,
awkward.
but she doesn't do it. She only does it a couple times, and it's not enough. Because it's only really the one time. Because even when they come back, and she's like, "Oh, there's a perfectly good explanation for," because that was a really good scene where they come back, and that's the big gaslighting, right? When they come back and they're like, "Sorry, what was it that you hated? Oh, sorry, the bedroom wasn't so big, and sorry, I forgot
totally.
you were a vegetarian." Blah 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 blah, and it's like maybe fine for a minute. And then Luis snaps at Karen. You said her name was right, the wife, Patrick.
Yeah, Karen.
Because she keeps telling her daughter to like eat quieter at
Oh,
the table,
right,
and she's just like, "Don't tell my daughter what to do." And again, I felt like that was a moment, like her character is obviously, and that's why in the climax, I felt like it would have been more in line with her character to do anything.
Do anything
Because she is established to be that character the whole time. Because Bjorn's the one that's like, no, it's good. I mean, it's weird, but like,
well, and he's
no big
so.
deal.
I love how charmed he is. You get a lot of like their backstory as a relationship, and like him, like he probably doesn't have many adult friends, like outside of those people he sees, and it's just like he's very smitten, and he likes how like Patrick is kind of like a big personality and very like enticing.
Oh yeah,
and he's very carefree. They
that scene near the end where he takes him out and like has him yell out his
Their motives-
frustrations and everything. Like,
right.
it's good, and
Those are
you
great,
can see
those
why
are
he
great,
gets
like,
him hooked
friendship
in.
building. Right, exactly. Yeah, I don't know, man. Do you want to? I'm gonna let's get
give
to
me
some Reddit.
give me
here.
a
I'm
money
gonna-
minute. I'm
The
pretty
money
sure
minute
only
is-
one person. I'm curious.
the
I'm
money-
curious how much this movie cost.
The money minute is very awkward. So I found that the movie cost 3.2 mil, which completely tracks, but honestly is more than I expected. So there maybe that could be added into the distribution deal after Sundance, because it's a Sundance film and it got picked up by IFC and Shudder.
How much?
3 million, 3.2 million.
Okay.
And I can see that, but I really can't either. There's 4 characters and like 3 locations. It's like it seemed like kind of more than I expected, but also like that's an indie budget.
Yeah, that's
so,
probably what I would have expected. Something about that.
Yeah, and this director's somewhat established. This is like his 5th movie, so
Yeah, and they got the
buy it.
scenes, and I feel like some of the budget definitely went towards like the the scenes where they're at the resort or whatever.
Right, of course,
of course.
but
that's not too bad, but yeah, I see your point.
yeah,
That's standard for I think what this movie is. How much did it make?
Well, it made 63,000 or 600.
Okay.
Oh my god! Why do I always get caught up on the hundreds thousands?
You do.
So yeah, so it made
that's
over
still
half a
not
million.
great. That's not great still, but it's better than 63,000. That's I was like, oh,
No,
there.
no, right. It definitely like, and that was and then that's an awkward thing because that's like box office. I don't know how much it made on its deal. That's what I couldn't find information on how much it made on the Shudder deal because that's probably a lot more. They probably made their full budget back.
That's
plus
true.
some, and it's probably being advertised on Shudder right now.
And that's
so
it is.
I just don't know how those deals.
Yeah.
That's what's wild, dude. We're in kind of an awkward transition period where we've talked about this before, where video on demand really is changing.
It's
the
hard
whole
to
structure of the
tell.
whole game.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So I'm sure this did well, and it's well received.
I hope this
somewhat.
movie makes its money back because again, I want to see what they do more. You know what I mean? It's like.
He can write strong ass characters. I just think he needs like a co-writer that can help with structure. Like he needs somebody who can give him like an Alex Skarsgård that's got like, or not Skarsgård. My God, what am I thinking of?
Garland.
Garland, thank you. Yeah, like an Alex Garland type that can write like really cool atmosphere and really cool like. I like his stories, but Garland's characters are kind of just one note and kind of weak. This guy can write great characters.
Yeah, I think the characters are really good. I think his plot gets a little away from him, obviously, and then the directing is really good. So that's why I'm like, the directing and acting, I want to see more, and I honestly want to watch. I think horror. Yeah, that sounded really cool, and I want to see more horror movies from like this part of the world. You know what I mean? I mean, I love horror movies in general, but it's just like there's something that is something about it. You know, they got an atmosphere I really like, but.
They do. Yeah, they do. It's kind of, it's like foreign, but like they speak English, but it's not right. It's not like, it's like weird accent English. But anyways, let's hear a Reddit, please.
So I only got one Reddit. Well, because all the Reddits are me or you and then one other person. So.
Oh, okay.
And then this is to Clones Are People Too, which thank you, because thanks, shout out, because thank you for constantly commenting and engaging with us, because that really does, I do really appreciate that. So
it really it fills me with joy to like comment.
It is. It's nice to, we get a handful of people throughout that's like really, getting with us on watching the movies and talking about their thoughts. So he says, Clones Are People Too says, I watched this last night and have mixed feelings. I don't watch a huge amount of modern horror, so I do not have much to compare this to. Much like the main characters, this movie felt uncomfortable and unpleasant at times. The film is crafted well, and we are fully aware that something bad is coming. As a parent, parts of this were very relatable. I understand what it is like to have to go back for a misplaced cuddle toy. Yeah. However, whoops. Sorry. However, I feel like it let me down with one of my personal pet peeves when it comes to horror. The main characters make stupid decisions, and that leads to their downfall. And the main turning point, sorry, I'm dumb. I keep pressing the thing and it like closes up. And the main turning point when the mother leaves her kid to cry because she's having sex feels completely out of character. Yeah. Thematically, it is about being too polite for fear of offending, but I feel like this was pushed too far, and the characters ended up being way too submissive rather than just too polite. Also, I found the villain's motivations lacking, to say the least. There's not much reason behind what they're doing, and from what we saw in the shed, it looks like they've been doing this for a long time. With that said, I still liked the ending and was happy that the film decided to stay on track rather than go for the happy ending. Overall, did I like this as a horror? Sure. Would I recommend it? Nah.
Well put.
Yeah, thanks for the comment. I would agree to a lot of that. I'm sorry that this is one of your introductions to modern horror. There is so much other better modern horror. Like,
Right.
this is good for what it does, but this is, again, like we'll say about if you like this, watch this. It's a very
give those
specific.
recommends at the end here.
Yeah.
Well, let's listen. Thank you for commenting.
Did Travis
let's
call?
hear Travis.
Oh,
yeah, Travis left a message.
for some reason I didn't think he did. So
I'm glad that he did. It was.
I'm
like,
interested to see his thoughts too. So let's find out. Whoops.
Yeah.
Probably help if I went into the right email, huh? All right, let's
That can help a little bit.
Let's see if you can actually hear this today.
Fingers crossed.
Let me
man.
crank it.
Hey guys, I'm unsure about Speak No Evil. On one hand, it has great acting, beautiful scenery, and an intriguing build-up, but also some of the worst decision-making of characters imaginable. I just can't get over the scene where they leave their child with a grown man babysitter
Yeah.
that doesn't speak any of the child's languages, who is referred to as an inexpensive babysitter by the family that they hardly know. I kept wondering, are Europeans, or more specifically Danish and Dutch, more trusting than we are? But as the movie continued, I realized it has to be just Bjorn and Louise. There's no one else in the world that would allow their child's tongue to be cut out without putting up a fight. In my opinion, the great acting from the four main characters create many considerably awkward and tense moments, but are outweighed by the horrible decisions of Bjorn and Louise. So I blame the writers for my negative opinion. This movie reminded me of Midsummer and Lamb because of the beautiful European countryside in isolation. My question today is, what other European horror movies would you guys recommend? Thanks. Oh, and also, I'm glad to have back-to-back foreign films. Wouldn't mind watching more.
Dude.
Thanks, Travis.
Yeah, thanks, Travis. Man, it's good hearing from you.
Yeah.
I know, dude. We'll do foreign. We'll do some more foreign films.
We will. Yeah. I'd say I
shoot,
sneak foreign films onto the polls all the time. They just don't win that often.
Right.
But we'll
do a
dedicate,
dedicated month.
because we talked about dedicating a month to like South Korean cinema or something like that a couple times.
Yeah,
and,
right. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree with all that. That's why I'm like,
Yeah, I know.
the baby, like a lot of it I could let fly, and I thought it was cultural, but then it's just like, yeah, no one.
Yeah, no one, because they are living like, it's not like they're living in a communal culture where they have like random ass people watch their kids all the time. They're not living in this, like, they're living in like a Western civilization that exists in like keeping to yourself, keeping your home, being polite. But it's like there comes to a point where it's like you have this fucking dude come in, you don't even know his name, he like never even like talks to you, and he just like talks to your kids like the whole time I was watching this movie. I was waiting for it to get extreme. I thought it was going to be so uncomfortable. I thought there was going to be like some massive child abuse, some like sexual assault. I thought it was going to be like, I mean, and it has those themes, and they do have like, it's like the tongue cutting scene. I mean, that is gruesome, and that's troublesome, but it's almost like it happened in the blink of an eye, and I was so frustrated by everything else going on that it wasn't impressive. It wasn't like, just happened, and I'm just like, it wasn't even technically that interesting.
I want to push back just slightly on, so both Travis and the Redditor both said that they didn't like them making stupid decisions, but I felt like this movie, I feel like a lot of horror movies that there's either a character that has no characterization, just making dumb decisions to move the plot forward, or what's even more frustrating is a character who does something out of character just to move the plot forward. So at least with this, I gave it a big pass until the ending, because they've established the characters making these dumb decisions as their characters. And I'm like, people make dumb decisions, especially in tense situations or all the time. And so I felt like that wasn't really a problem for me till it crossed the line, in which we've said, until it went over. Like, the babysitter is the first big one for me, which is insane. But then, like, as soon as you find the shed with all that, he's just like, okay, family, let's get out here. I'd be like, let's get the fuck out. Like,
It's the shed and the child. I mean, and then they do the.
And he leaves them alone. He leaves them alone in the car, and then he comes back, and they're in the car, and he's like, doesn't say anything. Like,
no, and it's like he does the obligatory, oh, my cell phone, mate, it doesn't have no balls on it. Like, it's
that
just
is
like,
how they sound, yeah.
Okay, no fucking shit. You don't have like cell reception. Honestly, we don't need that. Can we stop doing that, please? Can we stop doing that.
I
It's
know.
2023. We don't need somebody to say I don't have cell reception. We know you don't have cell reception. You're in the middle of nowhere. Like that, of course, that's gonna be the thing. It's like I can't wait for the movie that like they're like, oh, I have cell reception everywhere because I drive from Seattle, Washington to Utah, and I have cell reception 100% of the time.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I get it. I guess I'm not in the remotest part of the world. I don't know. It's
I
like,
don't know.
I'm just
Yeah,
like,
that is it's
it
hard
just makes me so
to.
frustrated to have that scene every time. It's
every
like a lame
time.
it's like a lame sex scene. Like the sex scene in this movie, it served a purpose, but like I hate just the obligatory sex scenes in movies. It's like I hate the obligatory my cell phone doesn't work. Oh, like it's like oh, I'm in a cave. My cell phone. Bummer. I'm not getting. Are you getting bars?
I know.
Oh God, we're on the space station, the International Space Station. Are you getting? I can't get cell reception up here.
To answer his other question, I'm hard pressed because I do think like I'm trying to think of like I pulled up like some because I'm just trying to remember of like more European like type horror films, and a lot of the ones I think of are like the like French ones, like we talked like Martyrs, like High Tension.
My two. If you
those
like
are
this,
different
watch
vibes.
this.
Those are different vibes.
Though I've got two that I think fit the vibes perfectly in this movie, and they're done exponentially better. Oh shit, I had a different question for you. But anyways, my first one was no, Lamb. I haven't seen Lamb.
Oh yeah, me neither. I want to see.
No,
Lamb.
see, shit, dude, that's awesome, Patrick. Or you've seen Lamb. I want to see it really bad. It looked amazing, and it totally fits that vibe. And I'm hoping that like Lamb's a little bit better. But anyways, sorry, that was a tangent. I'm just keeping you. I'm keeping you on pins and needles over here, viewers.
I know,
and, listeners.
Yeah. I'm on pins and needles.
1988. This isn't modern, but this fits the vibe perfectly. 1998. The Vanishing.
I was gonna say.
Holy
The Vanishing rules. I want to watch it again.
That is a nightmare of a movie, and it's perfect. It's totally like this, where it's just like it's super like it's frantic. People are nervous, but then it's done. It's subdued, and the tension is so thick that the whole time you're creeped out. Ooh, The Vanishing.
I haven't seen The Vanishing since high school, and I really want to rewatch it.
Dude, I watched it again. Yeah, probably. God, yeah, when I was like in my 20s. But anyways, 1988 Vanishing. But then if you want a more modern, you've probably seen some of the other Lanthimos. What is it? Yargos Lanthimos or whatever. What's that you say his name? But I think Dogtooth fits this vibe to a T.
Fucking love
perfectly.
Dogtooth.
It's really fucking awkward with kids. It totally fits this like people are like it's basically the kid control is really strong in Dogtooth, and that's kind of what I get. This this movie gave you those vibes. Like you're really like it's more vulnerable. It's a child.
That's a good answer. Dogtooth. Yeah, for sure.
Dogtooth is amazing.
Those are great.
God, those are just beautiful movies. Those two right there. They'll knock your socks off.
My two suggestions. So I think Funny Games, which I mentioned before.
And that nails like the intensity that this movie didn't bring.
Yeah.
Like this movie, I wanted this movie to have that intensity, and it just didn't bring. It never got there.
This is like imagine this movie, but with like more meta, and instead of like a weird like is it happening? It's a home invasion, so there's no fucking around.
Yeah. Right.
And both the original, I feel like lines up with the more like obviously European film, but I prefer the remake. Because it's like a shot-for-shot remake, and it's by the same director, and it's got Tim Roth and what's her face in it.
It's Tim Roth, and it's really clean, and I like the because it's the same. Isn't it the same kids?
I don't know. I don't think so, because it's like it was made like 10 years after, 10 years later.
No, it probably
is. The other one, and this has, and I wasn't even going to suggest this until we mentioned it earlier, but I feel like a perfect example of characters making dumb decisions that matter and is important to the character development and is like really on point is Green Room.
Yeah.
I feel like Green Room has some of the tensions early on and the atmosphere. I mean, I think Green Room is one of the best thrillers of all time. But yeah, Green Room has got, I mean, it's not the same in a lot of ways. It's definitely more like home baked, but it's like, I feel like some of the atmosphere and like some of the tension and the siege moments, like the dread, have similar. I don't know if you left this film wanting, I feel like Green Room might scratch certain itches for you.
And Green Room definitely like it'll totally like twist your expectations and like it just I don't know it's got really beautiful music throughout and it's like I don't know it's cool.
Green Room was made for me though.
First half,
I fucking
right. But like the first half, you would not expect the second half to come. So it's like it's almost like it's not even necessarily a twist because it's like you kind of it's gonna come, but the whole time you never understand like the intensity that's gonna.
I'm gonna go watch Green Room right now.
Green Room's an amazing.
Green Room's like my top 5 favorite movies. I fucking love Green Room.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's Speak No Evil.
Yeah,
I mean,
thanks,
it's a mixed bag, but overall, it's like we liked it, and I think we were so upset because we liked it, but we wanted more, and if they would have kind of landed it better or whatever.
Don't get me wrong. I would love to see another thing by them. And I would love to see more movies like this. Like I love getting like it's great. It's great tension, and I wasn't bored. I wasn't.
I wasn't bored.
I never like rolled my eyes and was like kind of like, oh my god, this is so like I'm just like get on with it already. I definitely liked everything that happened, and just like I was just frustrated at the ending. But that's I don't know. It's weird. This is a really weird. I'm in a weird mood with this movie.
I'm glad It left kind of a sour taste in my mouth overall, but I'm glad, like all movies, I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I've learned something, This is the cult of cinema knowledge. Again, we're the gaining of the knowledge. I'm a sponge, baby. I'm a sponge. Anyway, moving on. Next month, is there anything else? Oh yeah, what's your favorite scene? Real quick.
Well, that I already basically explained my favorite
mine
scene.
was the drive
kid's
back.
mouth. The what?
The drive back from the bar when he was
the swerving.
Like that was really tense for me because he's just hammered and
he's like
she's like shut the fuck up again, showing that she's willing to step to that level, but never doesn't.
And that's what makes me frustrated is because the whole time they build her up. My God, I can see.
I know.
But real quick, I just want to get it out there though because that actually is like a good point where they built her up to where she does have outbursts, and then at the end when like an outburst would be important, they don't let her do it. And so it's
that's what I'm saying about like with the character development, the decisions all make sense until the ending, and then at which point they're like, "This is the thesis for the movie," so she's now not gonna make these decisions. Which that is the. There are a couple dumb decisions that are there just to serve the plot, which is not good generally. So,
you know what? That's the last I'm going to say of it. This movie, is fine.
It's good. It's there.
What are we doing next month?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we're moving on. Next month. I've been talking about doing this for a while, and I'm glad we finally plunged into it because we're doing documentaries. It's like a total change and shift. It's like I want to watch some fucking documentaries. Totally different structures.
For the last 3 years?
I know we keep saying, but we like our films with like narrative classic structures. So I'm excited to watch. I've seen a decent handful, but not nearly enough documentaries as I'd like. Right. So, and what won the poll is Paris is Burning, which I know a little bit about. I know about all the movies a little bit that were on the poll. So I'm excited to watch it, and I'm hoping.
I'm excited. I'm curious how gut wrenching it's going to be.
Yeah, I specifically put like a little bit older documentaries on this first poll.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to see, because I know there's a lot of really good ones that get overlooked because they're older. Obviously as we go forward, there'll be all kinds of more crime investigative ones and what have you.
Right. I feel like those kind of outshine a lot. People love true crime.
It's just easier to make documentaries these days, I think, but they've been making them since film's been around. So
yeah, exactly.
So cool. Yeah, next week, Paris is Burning. Check it out. I'll make a post about it, and thanks to everyone for listening.
All of our patrons are amazing. We appreciate who you are. Shout out to you guys. If you want to join, go to Patreon/Cult of Cinema Knowledge and you can get on there, look at our variety of things. We would love it.
You're amazing.
Stuff. And then if you want to call in, like Travis did, and leave us a message, we don't have to play it on the podcast if you don't want to. That's not part of it. It'd just be nice to have your comment. We can just maybe read your comment or keep you anonymous. Anyhow, you can pick up your telephone, dial the numbers 801-613-1501.
Excellent.
Message. That'd be cute.
Thanks for everyone on voting on the Reddit. Go to the Reddit if you watch the movies, if you've seen them, if you want to watch them, come comment, come talk to us. Let's talk about fucking movies. So, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.